Well, welcome back. Welcome back to Extraordinary Drummer Show. As you know, I'm your host, Cheron Moore. I am so excited to have my guest on today. When I thought of so many awesome people, awesome drummers I wanted on the show, I said, I got to get her on the show. Anybody know her? Anybody got a number? Anybody know her? And I called all around and guys said, she's hard to get. So I am grateful that she's here with us. You all know her. She's a drummer's drummer. Her credits include Angela Bofill, which we're going to talk about. I want to talk about that great album, Give the Drummer Some. Worked with Farrel Sanders. She's awesome. She's a songwriter. We help me welcome Cindy Blackman Santana. Hey, Cindy.
Hi, hi, hi. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you for being on Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Awesome to be here. It's an honor.
Let's talk about some of your credits before I get into the history stuff. What's it like working with Farrel Sanders?
Oh my goodness, Pharoah was amazing because, he's got such an incredible sound. He's so very close to Coltrane. And that's like my favorite sound, Wayne and Coltrane, that pure side of the saxophone, the Prez side, the Bird side. I love that sound. That tone is like just so incredible. And he's got that. And his energy, he's like a Buddha, because he just stands there with all this electricity just popping out, and he counts the tune off and goes, and you are in it, and you got to hit it, or else he'll see you tomorrow because he's going. So yeah, it was great playing with Pharoah. He's amazing energy and incredible musician.
That's awesome that you said, or you see him tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's gone.
He's gone. He's not stopping. You gotta be on that boat too, or else you gotta catch the next boat.
Come on, Cindy, come on. You're absolutely right. I've seen him play quite a few times, and once he leaves that head, he's in another zip code.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh no. Let's talk about this one of my favorite artists, Angela Bofill. Oh, what a voice.
Yeah, such a beautiful big voice. And, her beautiful voice comes from, I believe, her beautiful heart, because she is such a sweet person. She is so kind and just so wonderful. She used to always call me cariño. And she used to say, oh, cariño. And I was like, what does that mean? It means sweetheart, but at that time I didn't know what it meant, and yeah, she's just such a beautiful person, inside, outside, a beautiful musician. That voice is so angelic, she can project like nobody's business, and yet her tone is just beautiful and pure. So she was wonderful to work with as well.
I'll do one or two more because I know the fans are fascinated. Lenny Kravitz, a lot of power back there, huh?
Oh yeah, that was really, really fun. I mean, he's just so funky, and it's just an incredible, in that genre that he's in, like the funk rock thing. He's amazing because he doesn't play jazz, but he loves it, so he loves Miles and he loves Coltrane, and he loves Wayne, and Herbie, and he loves that music. So though, like I said, though he's not playing it, he's got that vibration in him because he likes it so much, so his music is very raw, very rockin', very funky. But I was always able to add like some nice upbeats, which is the jazz sensibility, and add a few things here and there to kind of lift the music. And he was totally into it because he loves that, that direction. So that was really fun. And Powerhouse, absolutely. That was like a big, huge wall of sound moving like this, just clicking, and that was really incredible.
Awesome. Let me take you way back. Let's go way back. You remember just getting started with drums? How young were you? And you remember you got your first drum kit?
I do. I totally remember. I mean, I started asking for drums when I was about 3, not really knowing what I was asking for. I just wanted to play that instrument that I heard on the records. And then I started getting like toy drums at the age of 7. Um, and, those never lasted too long, but I would get those little drums and play them. And then when I was about 12 or 13, I got, actually, no, I was a little younger than that. I was about 11, and I got my first student model kit, which to me was fantastic because I had had those little toy drums before. So the student model kit was like getting a Rolls Royce for me at that period, so I had that kit. And as my ears grew and, as I was starting to develop and starting to hear more in sound quality and in what I wanted from a drum, I then was able to, at 13, I took a babysitting job for a whole summer, and I saved every single check. I got $30 a week, and I remember that. And I saved every single check, and by the end of I ordered, at the beginning of the summer, I ordered a new drum kit, and at the end of the summer, I was able to pay for it. And at that time, I didn't know anything about taxes, so I had the exact amount that it had on the paper. Is whatever the drum costs, whatever that was, I saved that exact amount. And when I got there, I was heartbroken because it ended up being more money because there were taxes. So my mom saved me, she gave me the extra money. And then I had my first professional drum kit, which lasted me through the rest of my high school, which all of my high school. And then, the first couple of years I had it in Boston at Berklee College of Music, and even when I went to New York. And then I sold that kit and finally got my first Gretsch drum kit, which really elevated me in terms of the sound and, really linking to the history of all the drummers who are my favorites, because they all played that drum and all had that sound.
Do you come from a musical background with your family or family members, anybody musically oriented as well?
Yeah, I'm really blessed with that because both my grandmothers played piano. My dad's mom played piano in the church, and she sang. She could sight read, and she was really wonderful. My mom's mom was a professional musician, classical pianist. So quite a few people in the family.
Where are you originally from, Cindy?
Ohio.
Oh, that explains it. Come on, that explains it. Oh man, Ohio. Woo.
Yeah.
Oh man, everybody came out of there, man.
Yes.
I get a lot of the guys on the show, and they just, you talking about Ohio players and blah, 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 on and on and on.
Isley Brothers, all these cats, a lot of cats came from Ohio, and we grew up, we're from Yellow Springs, Ohio, which is right outside of Dayton, and not too far from Cincinnati, where Bootsy's from. So we grew up hearing Bootsy all the time, hearing the Ohio players, all those cats. We heard them all, because that's where we're from.
Take me through high school. What was the scene like in high school for you as a young person and drummer?
We left Ohio. My dad got a job transfer, and we went to Connecticut. So I left Ohio when I was 11. And so my high school years were all spent in Connecticut, in a couple of different towns in Connecticut. First, we went to Bristol, then Cromwell. Then I finally graduated high school in West Hartford. And that was pretty cool because, as we were moving from Ohio, I was crying profusely. And I was like, I don't want to leave. We just moved into a new house. I'm right across the street from the high school. I'm right across the street from my cousin, who was my best friend, or up the street from him. And, I didn't want to leave. I was crying. My family was there. And my dad said, you want to play drums, right? You want to be a musician? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, staying here in Yellow Springs, you're not going to have as many opportunities as you would have on the East Coast. So, you can stay here. And maybe you'll play, maybe you won't. He says, but if you go there, you'll have many more opportunities. And I totally understood what he was saying, and I stopped crying right at that moment. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so he was right. I had a lot of opportunities. In Connecticut, we were exposed to schools that had music programs. The school that I graduated from, Conard High School, had a really good music program. We had an orchestral ensemble. which I was a part of. I was in the orchestra. We had a stage band, a concert band. I was in both of those. And the orchestral teacher taught what does he call it? I guess he called it a synthesized music class or something like that, which was involving like computers and different sounds. And, so we had that class, which was very, very interesting. So we had I had a well-rounded experience for music in high school.
How did you go about, before I get to Berkeley, how did you go about making a name for yourself around town as you got out and started doing live gigs and stuff?
I had a best friend, Don Doucette, who was a wonderful bass player, really great bass player. And in the summers, he used to set his gear up in my bedroom, which is where I had my drums. And so we would jam every day. We would play the records. We had different records that we would play to, and so there was a chance for me to grow and develop. And that will definitely lead into your question about Berkeley, because I don't know exactly what your question is, but it was wonderful to finally get to Berkeley, because playing with my group of friends in the niche of people that I found who were my age, that my mom would allow me to hang out with, they were into a certain genre of music, and I wanted to push that envelope. So when I got to Berkeley, I found a whole school of people who, many of them wanted to do the same thing that I wanted to do.
Let me change reels for a second. As I said earlier, you set the standard, especially for female drummers, if I may. Do you agree with that?
I'm fine with that. I never think of that, because, I'm just trying to set a standard for drummers, period. If it's helped women who play drums and young girls who play drums, then I think that's fantastic, because I think that, anybody who wants to play drums, whether it's a boy or a girl, man, woman, they should be able to do it. And their expression matters. So if I'm helping somebody have the confidence to express, and helping somebody with a pathway, and helping somebody with, actual things that I'm playing, I'm honored.
I want to talk with you a little bit about endorsements. What drums you're doing, what sticks you're doing, so on and so forth.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for asking that. My drums, I'm really happy to be endorsing Gretsch drums, because they have a sound that, helped build the lineage of jazz. I play, and just recently have switched to Vader drumsticks. I play Remo drum heads. Cymbals, I love Istanbul. I love the fact that they allow me to create. I have 2 lines with them. My first that we worked on together is called Om. And then we did another line. My second line is called Mantra. So those are my main companies. And then DW, I love their hardware, so I endorse them. I don't play much percussion, but when I do, it's LP. And yeah, those are my companies.
Give the drummer some.
Oh, give the drummer some. That one. That's my last and latest record thus far. And that one, I really wanted to experiment with playing in some different genres than what I had been doing on my own. I played with Lenny for like 17 years. So, I played pop stuff. I had played a little bit with Al B. Shore, in some early years. So, of course I had some great pop and funk rock, exposure and experience. I wanted to add some of that element into what I was doing, and I wanted to try my hand at singing. So that was like a maiden voyage for that, and some experimenting being done. But I also wanted to mix in some things that were creative and some messages, so we have some heavy messages, in that music as well. Changes in Your Hands has some great messages, as well as some other songs. So I'm proud of that record, because the goals that we were trying to reach, we did reach. We set some goals for some things that we wanted to do, some things that I wanted to do, and we did it.
Cindy, we do a thing on the show that we call Word of Advice, where I ask the drummers, I ask the guests if they will leave a parting word of advice for the up and coming drummers, for even the guys at the next level, but guys and girls, if I may say, that are trying to get traction in this game, in this industry. Would you leave them a word of advice, please?
Absolutely. Stick to your focus. Don't let anybody take you off your course. Play the music because you love it. Play the music because it's your heart and your soul. Play the music honestly, and you won't go wrong.
I was prepared to sit back for another hour just to hear that, because you certainly have a whole lot of it to share. Tell me about this one as I let you go here. Meeting Carlos. How did you meet Carlos, and how did that come about, and playing behind him?
The first time that I met Carlos, I was on the road with Lenny Kravitz, and we were playing, we were touring in Europe, and we played a festival in Germany, and Santana opened for Lenny on this particular festival. And so, we were all back in the dressing room, and I've known Dennis Chambers was playing with Carlos at that time. And I've known Dennis since I was like 14, because my older sister, who was a singer, sang in the Brides of Funkenstein, so one of the offshoots of Parliament Funkadelic, and Dennis played in that band. And she said, "Oh, there's this great drummer you got to meet. He's really cool, so nice." So I hadn't met him in person, but we became pen pals. And so we would write each other little letters, and he sent me pictures of him playing, and just different things. And so I've known him since I was 13, something like that. And so I saw him, and we were talking and hanging and looking at some videos of Tony, and Carlos walked by, and I think Dennis introduced us, and it was just a hi, how you doing? Nothing else, no sparks of anything, no romance, no sparks of playing together, no nothing, just a hi, it was just hi, just to meet him. And that was in 2005. And then in 2010, so 5 years later, he had a gig that was a corporate gig, booked like on their break period. So Dennis had already booked himself for some other tour and couldn't make that show. So Carlos said that something told him to call Cindy. He said, my name just popped into his head, and he said, I got to call Cindy. So he told his guys to find me, and they did. And somebody called me, this booking agent that I've used here and there. He called me, and he said, I got a call from the Santana camp, and they want to know if you could do it. Yes. I didn't even know what the question was. I said yes right away. Of course. So it was just a one gig, just a sub for Dennis, and he said, Carlos said, well, there's a lot happening in the music, because we go from song to song, we don't really take breaks, and there are a lot of hits and a lot of this and that, a lot of arrangements. So we'd like to invite you to Las Vegas, so you can watch the band and, sit in if you want to, but you can hear the music and see how we do. And then you take the tape and you'll learn it, because he's not a rehearser, he doesn't really rehearse very much. So I did that, I went and I sat around and listened to the music. I just watched how they flowed. I sat in a little bit, I watched how Dennis approached the music, and, watched how everybody interacted in the band, and watched all the weaving and all that kind of stuff. And then I did the gig, which was a couple of weeks later. But, I started to text with Carlos back and forth about the music. And, I wanted to make sure that I was going to give the music what he wanted and what it needed. but I also was hoping, I wanted to add my flavor as well. And so, we were talking about that, and then we started talking about spiritual things, and I was single at that time. I had stopped dating like probably a year before that because I just wasn't with the right people. I just wasn't finding the right person. And I was studying Kabbalah, and my teacher said, well, if you're not with the right one, then you're wasting your time. And I was like, oh, I guess he's right. So I stopped, and I just really I hadn't had a person who was on the same spiritual path as me, or in any spiritual path, in quite a long time. I'd had that in one relationship, and we parted ways, and so I really missed having that element in my life. And as we started talking, it was like, well, this guy's really spiritual, and I didn't know the real depth of who Carlos was as a musician. I really didn't, because we were listening to Miles and to different, to Tony, and I was in my own vein, so I knew who he was, but I didn't know, how big he was or anything like that. I didn't really know, but we started talking, and like I said, texting back and forth, and started talking about spiritual things, and then I went to do the gig, and things just started clicking, and then we just kept in touch and kept talking, and then the next thing you know, these sparks had started to fly, and 7 months later, we were married.
You actually played with the band thereafter too, more, didn't you?
I sat in. I would sit in when I was hanging out on tour. I was just there hanging out with Carlos, but he asked me to sit in, and I did. So I sat in a lot. Probably almost every night I was sitting in when I was out there with him. And then I went 2014 and 15. I went back on tour with Lenny Kravitz. So I went to tour with Lenny, and Carlos had changed drummers. He got another gentleman, Pepe Jimenez, who was playing the gig, and Pepe's a great drummer too. Like Dennis, he doesn't sound like Dennis, but he's a great drummer. They're both great in their own way. But I guess Carlos was looking for something else, and he said, I really would like to try you in the band. He said, I didn't ask you to join because everybody told me that a husband and wife should not work together like that, and that it wouldn't work. And he says, but I don't know about that. He said, I really, I love you playing, and I'm going to see how you do in the band. So I was like, I can handle it. Can you handle it? And he was like, yeah, I can handle it. We can handle it. So we tried it, and it was really fun, and so that was, I joined the band in 2016. Yeah.
This question here, I always ask the drummers this question here towards the end of the show. How would you like your legacy to be said, to be played out, to be told?
So I don't know, in terms of legacy, I have goals, and I want to become a virtuoso on the drums, which to me means being able to, after building up a vocabulary, which I've been doing all my life, to be able to use that language of drumming at any given second, in any way that I want to, invert it, turn it around, play it forwards, backwards, but in a language that is soulful, that is incredible quality of sound, that feels amazing, and that is innovative. So, I would hope to be looked at as a person who played from their heart, played from the love of the music, played for the love of the music, really did everything that they could to advance the music and to advance herself, you know, on the drums and in the music.
You know, through this whole interview, with your huge body, I'm not patronizing you here. I think these credits is earned already. But through this interview, I just hear the word humble. I just hear that word in you. Humble, humble, humble.
Thank you.
You have every right to stick your chest out and rah, rah, rah. You just as humble and soft-spoken. And then a beast on the drums, you know?
You know, we're all trying to make advancements, and you know, God is greater than all of us, and the music is bigger than all of us because it's like a prayer, you know, it's a gift from God, you know. So how can we not be humble in the face of that? You know, we're just trying to step up to the plate in terms of being able to be great channels and to be great administrators of the music, and to be people who advance the music, you know. So from my perspective, there's really no room for ego, because nobody's greater than God. And so we're always, you know, I believe in progressive revelation. We're always chasing that, you know, we're always going forward towards that, you know, we're always advancing ourselves. We're always really, whether we know it or not, we all want light. That's what we all want, you know. So whether the person is trying to find light and they don't understand that's what they're trying to find out. Some people try to find it through drugs, alcohol. Some people try to find it through music. Some people find it through laughter. Some people find it through working out. But it's light is that we're looking for. And the way that I want to express the light is through, to me, the most divine way, because it transcends any kind of barrier. It transcends language. It transcends politics. It transcends geography. It transcends gender. It transcends anything that our human brains can imagine, which, you know, creates a veil between us and the next person who is really another us. And that light to me is the expression of music, you know. And so that's really what I'm trying to do, in the way that I look at sharing and being a vehicle for, because that's what we are. We're vehicles for the divine. We're vehicles for sharing this beautiful gift of music. You know, song is just incredible. Whether you hear a bird singing and you get inspired by that, or whether you hear raindrops or the wind blowing, you know, or a baby laughing, you know, to transcend that and to spiral that into what you're playing, the sound of what you're doing, to me, that's a gift, you know. So there's no room for ego in that, you know. It's just to be grateful for that gift and to be grateful for being in the position to have the opportunity to transfer that.
But let me say thank you so very much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
It is such an honor. I love the show that you're doing. I love what you're doing. And I love that you celebrate drummers. And I love that you call it the Extraordinary Drummer Show. It's so uplifting. It's like, okay, how can I say no to that? You know, I love it because you're celebrating drummers, and we need that celebration. You know, drummers are important. It's an important chair. So thank you for having me. It's an honor. And you are just a joy. You're so much fun. You have a lot of light. I see it. I love it. The smile is great. So I thank you for sharing that with me and with everybody.
Thank you. Will you help us wave goodbye to everybody, all the fans?
Bye-bye. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you soon out there.
Thank you, Cindy.